Hi, I'm Nina Bosky, and welcome to LifeBites, where each and every week we'll get you inspired in the areas of life, business, and media. We'll help you dare, dream, do, and be so you can get out of your head into your soul in order to tune in and take a bite. This week, we're getting you life inspired. Hi, everybody. My name is Nina Bosky, and this is LifeBites, Life Inspired. Do I have a special treat for you? I'm honored to have him on the show today. He's one of my favorite people in the whole entire world. His name is Guru Singh. He is a third generation master yogi. He's also what you would call a practical mystic. And I know from firsthand, and we'll get into this, why he is a practical mystic. He brings the teachings of the ancient traditions along with modern science into the world of today that needs a lot more common sense, and he makes it more practical for you. So with that, I'd like to welcome to the show Guru Singh. Hi.
Oh, it's such a good moment to be with you, Nina. It's many years that we have traveled this journey together here.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it, and I said the practical part of it, and I think this is an interesting intro into sharing who you are. So I remember when somebody had introduced me to you, and I went in to meet with you for the first time. And I thought that you were going to be the yogi on the hill to tell me. I was like, Guru Singh, my media business and this. And I thought you were going to tell me, okay, sit and meditate. And just when the timing's right, you will then begin again. And so you looked at me and you said, what in the world are you going to do about it? And I was like, what do you mean do about it? I thought I was supposed to meditate. And I loved the fact that you bring the practicality with the wisdom, especially today.
Yeah. Today is a unique moment in the history of humanity. I don't believe that we're any crazier than we've ever been. But I believe that we're aware of our collective craziness a lot more than we have ever been, which does a couple of things. One, it is off-putting to those who are striving to be more balanced. And secondly, it is encouraging to those who are on the joyride of the imbalance. And I say joyride in that category of joyrides that was, when they would have those double dares of driving their cars towards the edge of the cliff, and who could keep their foot off the brake longer was the winner, right?
Wow.
And remember, back in the day, James Dean, and the movies of those swashbuckling kind of, macho guys, and it's all back on us. But it's always been there, and it's always been there underneath the surface. It's just now being exposed by the various capacities of media that are outside the realm of, of corporate media.
Well, and I think that's what we're seeing more and more of. There's these little pockets of
Mm-hmm.
people and communities and even media that's coming through to say, wait a minute here. The land of the free. I'll speak here in America.
Metaphoric terms.
Yes. And we think that we have the principles of that, but in reality, there's so much information going out there at this time. And so I would imagine the need for our own spirituality, a deeper sense of self and awareness is probably, it's always been there, like you said, but the intensity, I know even in my own
Mm.
life, coming at me each and every day, how do we counteract that with that balance, with even what the truth could be? It's hard to even
Well,
know.
there's various aspects. Carl Jung, the famed psychologist, wrote a lot about the collective interactive unconscious. And he wrote about the fact that it was actually a virus. It was a psychic virus that could be passed from person to person just through the look in your eye, right? The mystics in ancient Persia would try and find the stones that would protect you from that same event. So now we're talking Carl Jung, who was in the early 20th century. Then the Persian mystics, which were 2,000-3,000 years ago, all talking about the same thing. And the Persian mystics talked about the evil eye, when
Mm,
somebody would cast the evil eye. And basically what that is the look that comes through the eyes that is either commanding or condemning, right? Either encouraging or discouraging. And we learn about this, child psychologists understand, we learn about the look in the eye before we are verbal, before we know how to speak. So the look in our parents' eyes when we've done something good is something that we register without words. The look in the eye of our parents when we've done something bad, we register without words. So no matter how much we talk about the sensations that we are feeling that are at that level, talking can't even touch them because they were pre-verbal sensations. They were sensations that infused into our body's cells, created emotional responses. We would see the look of favoritism, of thankfulness, of approval, and we would strive to achieve that look as often as we could as young children. That's how children learn to walk and talk. It's through that continuous making of mistakes.
yeah.
So then bring this forward. What about all of those human beings who don't get the positive feedback? Who now, the only feedback that they are accustomed to, even at the parental level, was feedback of disapproval.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know the common child psychology is that any amount of attention, whether it's good or bad, is attention.
Mm-hmm.
Mm? And so these children have now grown up, but they have not grown wiser, they have just grown older. And so these children are still looking for that attention. And that attention is not the look of approval, but that attention is the look of disapproval.
Mm.
And that feeds them. It gives them the sensation that they know they're alive. Now, not only are they getting it from the look of the people that are around them in person, but they're getting it from the look of the people who are online. And so it has been multiplied multifold, to the extent where now what we have is we've got this psychic unconscious, and the reason that Carl Jung called it the unconscious was because it lacks that cognitive, compassionate element. It's asleep in that positive realm and very active in the negative realm. And now you have it, to use a cliche, on steroids because of social media and the approval click. And we find that the more you can become negative and negating and canceling, as they call it, the cancel culture, the more clicks you get, the more likes you get, the more you get liked for your disparaging, disapproving, negating attitude. And so that now is easier. As they say, Rome took a long time to build, but it could get demolished in a day, right? So deconstruction happens very rapidly. So it's that quick fix. So when you deconstruct something, it's that quick fix. So let's deconstruct racial equality. Let's deconstruct gender equality. Let's deconstruct the right to sexual orientation, to sexual choice. Let's deconstruct all of these things. It's fast, it's energetic, and it gives you a punch right away. That's what we're experiencing in the world today. And so those that are striving to build the construction of equality, whether it's racial equality or gender equality or sexual orientation equality, whatever the equality is, so that we are all equal. We are all in equilibrium. Now you're talking about the science of forestry. Because the old growth forests have lasted hundreds of millions of years longer than animal life because they bank, and I use that word very intentionally, they bank on equality. The old growth forests would never be able to be reproduced with young trees growing up in their midst if they didn't have that banking system of equality. The zero-sum banking system that capitalism is based on is the wrong form of banking for capitalism to survive. The equilibrium banking system is what is needed to replace the zero-sum. Zero-sum is when you borrow money. You have money, but you also have debt. That's zero-sum because they balance each other out. In the forestry banking system, you gain what you need, but you don't experience debt. You just experience the fulfillment of your life. And here's how it works. The largest living creature on earth is mycelium, which is the fungus that grows underneath the ground of old growth forests. The largest yet discovered is 2,000 acres, a single creature, a single entity that spreads out over 2,000 acres. Now, in those 2,000 acres, there's lots of meadows and there's lots of riverbeds which are filled with sunlight. In the midst of the old growth forest, there is no sunlight. And so little saplings growing up would wither and die without sunlight. And so the old growth forest would never reproduce. But instead, the mycelium, bringing sunlight in the form of all of its nutrients, runs along in the old growth forest, gathering sunlight in the meadows and the riverbeds and bringing it to those young saplings. And they get sunlight without ever experiencing the sun until they grow up so that their heads are above their parents.
Well, and look at it from this perspective too. What you said was there's so much good stuff there. We have a society right now that we're turning on each other, even in the midst of wanting equality. So I'm going
Right.
to say this and say no to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the level of not just judgment, but energy of anger and hatred coming forth, whether they're hatred of that ex person or something way back when. We're not, I'm finding it really on my lens, looking at it going, okay, on one hand, there's these beautiful souls really wanting what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this other part of the world that if I go and you go out into the world and we start talking about let's say the love frequency and the family unit, even in the forestry, we're all in this together. Remember
Mm-hmm.
that slogan in the beginning of the pandemic?
Mm-hmm.
How quickly did that turn?
That is because entropy is part of nature.
Mm.
And entropy acts faster than evolution. And so if you want a quick hit, you go with the entropic rather than the evolutionary. Evolution takes a long time. Entropy can happen overnight. And so what we're looking at here is we're looking at quick satisfaction. The beauty is embrace it to erase it. So if you see a bad habit in someone, embrace it. Don't cancel it. Don't negate it. Don't criticize it. Because now you've estranged it, and it's going to get stronger. And this is also what the Kabbalists and the indigenous talked about when they talked about the same thing as Carl Jung was talking about the collective dark unconscious. They talked about how when you see that which is contradictory to life and to growth, if you criticize it and condemn it, you separate it and make it stronger. And it will never obey you. Not that you need it to obey you, but you might want it to join you
Yeah.
in your upliftment. So embrace it, because you can, I mean, it's the old saying, keep your enemies close, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And that saying went on because put your arms around your enemies so they don't slip behind your back to stab you. Mm. So if you embrace that which is being derogatory to the level of devastating in today's world, then we can nurture it and begin to guide it in a positive direction.
I
And
think
that's not Pollyanna.
no, that's
And
not Pollyanna.
that's not sticking our heads in the sand. That's a big task.
It is a big task. And it's also going back to the original statement that you used, when the body sensation, and we get trained based on how now we're a child and now we grow up.
Yeah.
And now
we don't grow up. We
or
just
we don't
grow
grow
old.
up, but
We
we
grow
don't get
old.
old but not wiser, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say if somebody then disowns that person that has grown up that way,
Mm-hmm.
to your point, that energy just gets stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look out into the general media public, I am watching. It doesn't matter whether you watch a news channel like CNN or Fox News. Okay, I'm using those two as symbolic. The conversation is all about I'm right and you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what the politics are, the topic is, etc.
Mm-hmm.
It feeds on itself.
Mm-hmm.
And as a society, even people that I would think, even myself at times, oh yeah, I'm very aware. But I sit there and I go, are we really buying off on this? This is, and it seems bigger, but maybe it's just more intense. What do you say to that? Because it really feels like we're in a big sleep, all of us.
Yeah. Both sides are sides. And what we have to do is embrace the coin, not the side of the coin. It's not heads or tails. It's not a game of heads or tails. It's a game of coins. And so we must embrace the head and the tail. Because, and we must do it at a very young age. To me, and to those who are really intelligent in education, we understand that in today's world there is not any such thing as education. There's training. And we train children to spell. We train children to be able to solve math problems. We train children to write. We train children, etc., etc. But education goes much deeper. So education would not be placing so much importance on test scores as it would be placing on compatibility scores. In other words, how compatible are you with the other children in your classroom? That would be at the top of your grade list. And we would entrain each other to become compatible, to become compassionate, because let's face it, particularly in today's world, you don't need to know how to spell. Auto-spell is going to correct your spelling as you type. You don't actually need to add, subtract, multiply, and divide to the extent that we spend years in school learning this. That can all be learned if you're inclined toward a career that needs that skill in a deep way. I'm not saying be math ignorant. I'm not saying be spelling ignorant. I'm saying let's get down into the actual subjects and topics that are educational, which are how to be in love, how to treat each other properly, how to have relationships that extend for decades,
how to resolve conflict when you get into a conflict.
Resolve conflict.
Yeah.
And that's a really good one too, and because the resolution of conflict is what is called an elevated paradox. In other words, conflict in a zero-sum game is always about compromise. Give a little to get a little. And then it's how much are you going to compromise? Those who have learned to compromise less and negotiate harder usually feel like, I won the negotiation. Well, a negotiation isn't supposed to be something that you win. The result of a negotiation is supposed to feel like everybody won. So an elevated paradox is you take the polarities, which is Newton's third law of motion, that for every action there's an equal reaction. And in a world of equal reaction and action, which is a world of perfect balance, you have no life because it would be stagnation. Everything would be equal and opposite. Everything would reach an impasse, right? So there always has to be an imbalance, a slight imbalance to create motion. Which direction do you going to have the slight imbalance be? Positive or negative? Both, if they're slight, can be incredible. What are you going to add to the meal? Sweetener or savory, right? Are you going to add maple syrup or Himalayan pink salt? Right? I'm trying to keep it organic here, right? If you add maple syrup, it's going to smooth the edges. And you're not going to really taste anything specifically. It's going to make a blend. If you add Himalayan pink salt or Irish sea salt, Celtic sea salt, then it's going to make the edges jagged. And you're going to taste all of the differentiation. It's a choice. But both choices are good choices at different times. Those are that metaphor expanded into life is what everybody has to begin to see are the choices that we can make in the realm of tolerance. Yeah, I'm reading a great book. It's called The Second. And it's written by a woman of color who is a professor of history. And it's all about how the Second Amendment wasn't about self-protection. It was about something completely different.
Really? Wow.
It was about, literally, it was about arming militia so that they could control slavery. And what I'm seeing is that so many of these little things that we hold to be quite dear in life are actually offshoots of old bigotries that were never resolved. We've got a lot of resolution to go through. I mean, we probably, in an evolutionary educational system, have about 200 years of education to go through in order to get us to a place where we are going to have peace. But we have to begin somewhere. And the earliest stages of that process would give us a sense of progress. The process would show progress early on. And that's what we need to feel in order to give a glimmer of hope. Because with that glimmer of hope, because hope is a human ecosystem, and what hope does is it creates an authority to take action.
To take action. And there's a lot of people right now that are feeling exhausted,
Hopeless.
hopeless,
Yeah.
not sure what to do. They want to do something.
Yep.
I'm just one person, and this feels very overwhelming. What do you say to
Enjoy the overwhelm.
that?
Because it's overwhelmingly in one direction. It's overwhelmingly negative, or it's overwhelmingly arduous, whatever that might be, whatever the sensation of overwhelm is. But also understand that based on physics, for every action there's an equal reaction. So that means that our sympathetic nervous system is seeing the overwhelm, is experiencing the overwhelm. If we were to take a meditative step back, a contemplative step back, our parasympathetic nervous system would kick in and we would see the polarity. Because the parasympathetic system shows you not only the overwhelm, but instead of focusing and zeroing in only on the overwhelm, oh, I'm so exhausted, it goes, yeah, I'm exhausted, and there's this rope, there's this lifeline here, that if I just gather enough strength to grab hold of this lifeline, I will get pulled out of my exhaustion over the next 3 days, 10 days, whatever, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is. And that is the glimmer of hope. It's just like in economics. A person can feel overwhelmed in their debt, but if they know that they're making a living wage, a wage that doesn't just cover their overhead, but covers their overhead with an additional component of saving, that they can use the early stages of saving to pay off old debt, and then when they're debt free, they can begin to accumulate. This is that forestry system of economics that we must produce in order for us to have, peace and joy and love, as you were saying, on this planet.
So let's take it a little deeper, because it's coming down the track rapidly. And it's called AI.
Oh yeah, artificial intelligence. I always look at it as there's two forms of AI.
Yeah.
Artificial and actual.
Yes.
I prefer actual intelligence, because if you're a label shopper in the grocery store and you see all these things that say artificial this and artificial that, you realize that it's too much artificial. It's not going to be nutritious. It may be delicious, but it's not nutritious. And that's because they have created what are called excitotoxins that excite the taste buds but are toxic to the system, right? Excitotoxins are these taste enhancers that they put in all kinds of food. One of the simplest one is, what is it, MSG?
MSG, yeah.
Is a form of salt, monosodium glutamate is a form of salt that excites your taste buds more than regular sodium. However, it's toxic to your nervous system. So that being said, what we have to do is we have to realize that, okay, artificial is okay. Artificial is okay for certain things, but not for everything. And it needs to be consciously used. There are going to be, because artificial intelligence is only in the two-dimensional stage, meaning computer science is ones and zeros. It's a binary system, right? Which is right, wrong, good, bad, yes, no. It's the head brain, the analytics. If this, then that. That's how computer programming is written. If
Mm-hmm.
this, then that. If that, then this. If this, then that. That's how, and they speed it up, and that's what makes it artificial intelligence. But there's 3 brains in the body. There's 3 neurocenters in the body. There's the head brain, the heart brain, real neurology, and the gut brain. And they're talking a lot about the gut brain in today's world because the gut biome, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's nerves in the gut that are all about connection in 3 dimensions and the nourishment from that connection, which is not only the food we eat, but it's the people we meet.
Mm-hmm.
The connection that we have with people nourishes us as much as the food that we eat. Heart is all about the give and receive, and that's what the heart center is all about, the heart and lungs, right? Which is about a giving and receiving, exhaling, inhaling, pumping blood, receiving blood. And so these 2 brains combined with this brain, with all 3 being of equal stature, except for in moments when you need more this or more this or more this, that's what's called actual intelligence. What we're referring to as AI, artificial intelligence, is just this on steroids
And and
with
and
no heart and no connection.
and so here is the challenge, okay?
Well, it's a big
Is
challenge.
that you have it's already there, just hasn't been executed in a mass level. Somebody
I never
just
use that word.
oh yeah, never on a mass level.
Executed.
Execute, yeah, executed.
That's
Oh
that's
yeah.
a that's a word of violence. Implemented.
Implemented. Let's say implemented. And maybe I said that, and I that was a little bit of a let's say Freudian slip there of what I said. But what
No,
I
no, it's early stages, right?
yeah, it's early stages. But
It's a
Joe
monster.
Rogan's podcast,
Hmm.
AI created a show that sounds exactly like Joe Rogan.
Right.
So here we are.
Yeah, Joe and I need to talk.
Yeah, so here we are, and he didn't,
I know he
certainly,
didn't do
yeah,
it.
he didn't do it. But here's
Right.
the thing: we live in a quick fix society. Give me a like, give me this, give me
Yep.
that. So, oh, it sounds like Joe. Okay, I'll just listen to that because
Okay,
that's what
so
we've been
let's
doing.
look at this. We live in a quick fix, and we live in the world of genetically modified organisms, right? The GMOs, and we live in the world of Roundup, which is nothing more than commercial Agent Orange. And we live in the world of all of these things that were quick fixes. Quick fix for weeds, quick fix for bugs, quick fix for this, quick fix for that. And it's all coming back to eat us up, because the science that went into it was only partially thought through. Remember the houses in the early 20th century that were, the walls were filled with asbestos, because asbestos was the best insulation that you could possibly find. Well, that came back to bite us in the ass. And the same thing is holding true for all of these things. We are going to have to go through the realities of AI to come to understand the appropriate usage of AI. The appropriate usage of AI, by the way, is going to be in medicine, and it's going to be in music, because AI is going to be able to divide up all of the variables that are involved in synthesizing these medical products. You know, you're not going to get rid of pharmaceuticals. What you need to do is you need to speed up the process of synthesis. Because what happens in pharmaceuticals is they take an herb that has a quality, has a curative quality, and they synthesize the most active ingredient, which cures much faster and then has a laundry list of side effects.
Yeah, all you have to do is watch a commercial, and I'm sitting there
Yes.
going, "Who in the world is going to take this?" It's
You
like,
can
and it
shit, you
might.
can shit your brains out, you can do this, you can do that, and all of these things because you wanted to cure your this, that, or the other thing, right?
But it brings in all
But
this
that's
other stuff.
because the herb that they're synthesizing has most active ingredient, less active ingredients, inert ingredients, and inactive ingredients and inert ingredients. And the inert, inactive, less active were what balanced out the side effects of the active ingredient. But because it costs so much and takes so much time to synthesize all four, they save money and just spend billions of dollars to synthesize one. AI is going to be able to synthesize the entire complex, and you're going to have pharmaceuticals without side effects. That's what AI is going to be of great value in.
It's
Those are
again,
the kinds of things that we need to use. The head brain on steroids is what AI is. Actual intelligence is balanced intelligence. Head brain, heart brain, gut brain. And so that we're connected and nourished by our relationships, we give and receive from our relationships, and then we can analyze the details of our relationships. But if these are both inactive, and all we do, which is what humanity has come to, all we do is use the head brain, because we've been developing this head brain. Anthropologists understand this for the last 125,000 years. All we've done is feed the head brain. Earlier we were gatherers and hunters and gatherers, and we would use this brain and this brain in order to feed ourselves. But then we got into the agricultural movement, and we started just using this, and we lost all of our other sensations. So just using this on steroids and AI at that level is going to create a lot of creepy ways and wanderings. And we're going to have to learn that lesson.
so we're sitting here in this moment in time, and life is unfolding. And here we are. And anybody who may be watching this right now, you help many people through your words, through your meditations, through the work that you do in the world. What do we need to do now to prepare us for this next wave?
We need to take a deep breath. And then we need to take another one. And then we need to stretch into our body glove. And so that, because I was talking earlier about entropy is very fast and construction is very slow, evolution is very slow, we can offset the entropy of gravity that is crushing our body every single day that we live and moving our body. Gravity is just a longer version of grave, right? And gravity, that's where the word comes from. The grave is just the shortening of gravity,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's a grave situation, right? It means it's got a lot of but then if you've got gravitas, that's literally the balancing of levity and gravity. And so how do you get gravitas? How do you get levity into your life? You get levity and gravitas into your life by breathing deeply, by stretching fully, by getting into your body glove every single day, so that that which takes place naturally throughout the rest of the day does not move you closer and closer to the incapacitated nature of old age. That you become capacitated in your old age. You become able to use your wisdom to navigate more and less, more with less effort. It's the art of Tai Chi. It's the art of Qigong. It's the art of and the science of Kundalini. It's that way of moving through time and space with the greatest efficiency. That's what we need to do, and it begins with breathing and moving.
Moving.
Don't think that moving is just you got to go out and run a mile. Not everybody can just jump up and go out and run a mile. But if you just stood up and stretched into your body for 2 to 3 minutes every single morning, eventually you would start going, I really like this, and 2 to 3 would become 4 to 5, then 4 to 5 would become 7 to 9, and then all of a sudden you would start doing, 15, 20 minutes of good stretching every morning with deep breathing. And now what are you doing? Now you are elevating your body You're connecting your physical body with your emotional body so that you can use your emotions as tools rather than having them run roughshod over you. You grab hold of their controls and you begin to use. You want to use anger? Use it through a controlled mechanism of determination and be determined that you're going to achieve something. And that's all the wise use of anger. Anger just exploding in the face
Yeah,
of some circumstance is destructive. But if you use the same energy of anger, which is just liver heat, moving up through your diaphragm and resonating into this chamber of your abdomen, you can use that liver heat, which is translated as anger if it's just exploding, as determination. Use it over time. Gasoline. Light a gallon of gasoline in a can, right? You got an explosive fire. Light a gallon of gasoline in your tank. Of course, now we're going electric, but in your tank, what do you got? You got 20 to 30 miles of motion.
motion. One of the things that you said to me a long time ago, I'll never forget it. And I say this to people. If you don't learn how to manage your emotions or drive your emotions will drive you.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that's a lot of what's happening right now. We're just all a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
reactionaries out there. So I know that you have
Pent up.
pent up, and we have actually been pent up,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't really been able to express ourselves freely. If one person is able to express themselves now, another group isn't, etc. And there hasn't really been a avenue of understanding and compassion and a way to look at it where there is a true understanding, wanting and getting curious about the other person instead of going, no, you're wrong. Because
Mm-hmm.
that wrong, all that does is keep that pent up energy, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, and it just keeps building and building and building and building. So, you are out in the world, you have a platform, and tell us a little bit about that. Can anybody join, or tell us
Yep.
how it works?
The platform is available on Android and Apple in the App Store. It's called The 13 number, The 13 Moons. And it's a platform that has a lot of freemium and then it has a paywall for premium. So if you don't want to pay anything, use it. There's plenty to keep you occupied. And it's instructional. It's instructional as to how to breathe. It's instructional as to how to move. It's got guided meditations. It's got things that can calm you down. It's got a community that you can interact with, people that are of like heart and like mind. And that is the 13 moons. And as I said, if you want to, get the pay for version, then you have hundreds and hundreds of yoga classes and meditation workshops and all of these things that can, you can fill a dozen libraries with it. And then we also have a 200-hour training in what is called Kundalini University.
Mm-hmm.
Kundalini University is a 700 or 835 pages of manuals, 350 videos. It's a course that starts once a year, but you start it the moment you sign up for it because there's a pre-course to the actual course. And we have graduated thousands of students through this course. It's 200 hours over 6 to 7 months. And it brings you up into your awareness of, how do I use my emotional body?
Mm-hmm.
How do I use my higher awareness? And something that you spoke of earlier, I want to get back to. You said that a lot of people are wanting to just hide from the fact that the greater their awareness, the more crap they see, right? The more of the god awful nature of humanity they're experiencing. In these platform, in the 13 moons, we work with it, and in Kundalini University we work with it, and that is, how do you see all that there is that you can possibly imagine, with all of the blessings and all of the curses, all of the goodness and all of the really evil stuff that's going on? And how do you keep your sense of balance without hiding from it, without running from it? That's what we work with. That's what we train, because there is science behind being a human in life that can enable you to use your physical body, your emotional body, and your mental body so that you can move properly, so that you can have the right feelings at the right time and really enjoy or use, if they're not enjoyable, use the ones that are not enjoyable in order to arrive at the ones that are more enjoyable. And how does your thought process? How does your sleep process? How can you get to sleep, or is your brain still going?
Going, yeah.
How do you move yourself into sleep without having to take some kind of chemical that has side effects?
Yeah.
And so those are the kinds of trainings that I've dedicated my life to ever since I was a child, because I was raised in a yogic household. That's why in my bio it says third generation, because my grandparents' generation and my parents' generation and then my generation were all yogic inclined, right?
Mm-hmm.
All studying and practicing yoga and meditation and proper exercise and proper lifestyle and proper diet. So I came from a lineage. That's why I have that in my bio. So that's what I've been doing since I was a small child, is learning how does this apply in today's world. Because what the yogis were doing 500 years ago, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, didn't have automobiles, didn't have airplanes, didn't have telephones, didn't
Didn't
have
have social
massive,
media.
didn't
Didn't,
have
yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
So things are different, and we need to apply the traditions in a different way. And that's why the bio says, a practical mystic, because I know the traditions. How are you going to translate them into the 21st century? That's a key.
That is really key. And I think what you also are alluding to in what you're saying too is that you're not becoming your emotions through this
Mm-hmm.
work. Because what happens is if I become my anger, if I become my fear, I now can't get neutral to be able to see both sides and make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being run this way and that way. Oh, I watched the news today. I went outside.
Mm.
It's this horrible world
Yeah.
versus how can I become more centered and grounded? And that's why I want to be able to support all the beautiful work you're doing in the world. I think that you know this from the LifeBites cards. It says there's a card that says we already know that technology can surpass humanity,
Mm-hmm.
but the real kind of moment in time that we're in right now is our humanity needs to come forward, because in order for us to have that balance again, we're way out of balance in how we've been operating and not paying attention to the things that are getting away from us.
Yeah.
And I'm I have to say I'm highly concerned, but I also gives me hope that people like yourself are in the world helping people transform. It's so needed.
You know, I love the metaphor of sailing. And sailing has, over the last 10 or 15 years, taken a mega step. Sail racing. So, sailing on an ocean is a matter of working with the wind, and also working with the current, and also working with the waves. And the waves were a little bit like the emotions, rise and fall and rise and fall. And so the faster you were going, which was using the winds, the enthusiasm, the winds, the inspiration, the winds, the faster you were going, the harder you were hitting the waves of emotion. And so people would want to slow down and not move at all, because these waves were tearing them apart. Well, in the last 15 or so years, the boats now don't ride in the water. The racing sailboats ride on a fin that is tucked underneath the waves, so it doesn't actually experience the wave at all. It cuts through the water beneath where the wave
Wow.
is. And the hull of the boat is suspended out of the water. that is what we teach does for your emotional body, so that when you begin to accelerate in your consciousness, you're not hitting the emotions with greater force. You're actually elevating, levitating, if you will, and riding above those waves, because you have this fin that is not ignoring those waves, that is tucked and embracing under those waves. And that same physics, that same law of physics, is embrace the wave under it and ride and elevate over it, is what we teach in order to live in this tumultuous world without living in tumult.
What is that famous Bible verse? Be in the world, but not of it, right?
Yeah.
So deepening that sense of self, spiritual
Yeah,
beings having a human experience instead of the other way around. So,
exactly.
what inspires you today? What inspires you today?
Everything.
Hmm.
I'm inspired by the great need, and I'm also inspired by the great ability. The great need is that this world is in a dire state. The ability is if the world is in a dire state, the law of infinity is everything is everywhere always, which means that the dire state represents the dire ability to meet that state. The coin always has the two sides. So I'm inspired by everything.
And embracing the coin, not the two sides.
Yep.
Beautiful. I want to thank you for
Then
being
the
on the
coin,
show.
then the coin serves you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You can buy stuff with it. Instead of arguing over heads or tails, you just say, "To heck with that, man. Let's get some bananas."
Yeah, let's get something here. Yeah, I love that. So I want to say thank you so much for being on the show today and
Let's do it
inspiring all
often.
of us. Yes, I love this. This is a wonderful conversation today, and I think people are going to get a lot out of it. And I think we need to give people some hope here of how to ride this wave and
Hmm.
sail. I love that metaphor. So thank you so much.
Hmm. Thank you.
All right. I am Nina Bosky for Life Bites, Life Inspired. Until next time, remember to take a bite out of life before life takes a bite out of you.
And let me just say, Nina Bosky is the real deal. She's been doing this for so long. She definitely knows what she's doing and definitely cares deeply for her audience.
Thank you. Lots of love.
Lots of love.